Hello, good morning. Welcome back to this new live session. It is great to see you all again here. Welcome back to all those who have been joining us every live stream. Good morning, good evening, and good night for all the world. Thank you again for being part of this great community, and thank you for sharing our content with your friends and colleagues. And thank you also for your comments. I would like to remember you that our main purpose with this series of interviews is to share what homeopathy has brought to our lives in terms of teachings, life experiences, personal growth, professional success. And I am very excited today and very happy about the guest that we have today. She's a very qualified woman with a lot of passion, a hardworking person, very dedicated, very persistent with her purpose, very loyal with a very clear and defined purpose, which is to provide elements through research to demonstrate that this wonderful science is not just a theory, but it is a real science. She is the head of the IACH Research Department. She is the director of the Center for Classical Homeopathy in Bangalore, India. And I wanted to thank her personally through this interview because she has inspired me a lot in my present path. Thank you, dear Seema, for all the love and passion that you put in your work and the passion that transmits us. Please help me to give her a very warm welcome in the comments down below to Dr. Seema Mahesh.
Hi,
Hi, hello, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
I am also very good, thank you.
Great, sir. So,
Here we have the comments from Sahi, the one. Good morning. She says good morning. Also, Alexandra Luis. She says good afternoon, dear Maria. Here is in the morning in Mexico, so it's a little bit early.
very
Also, Sahir, she says, "Ma'am, wanted books of Vithoulkas, Natalia Orsino. Hello, dear friends. Such a joy to be here with you, Fer and Dr. Seema. Nandesh, welcome, Dr. Seema, Madam. Hello, Proja, Shri, and Rita, Almantina, Giovanelli, also from Mexico. Hello. How are you? So it is today. It is a very special day for me because I am here with you. And how are you? Please share with us a little bit about yourself, your resume, please. I am pretty sure that you are not shy in front of cameras. I have seen you. So please be my guest and feel like home.
okay. Thank you, Maria. First and foremost, I am my identity, biggest identity is that I'm the student of Professor Vithoulkas, for which I'm very thankful for whoever is happy with me up there. So beyond that, my work is mainly in bringing the concepts of homeopathy, teachings of classical homeopathy as taught by Professor Vithoulkas, which is just bringing Hahnemannian teachings more accessible to our times, to bring those concepts into evidence form. That is the biggest challenge today we have is being accepted as a science, as a healing science. You
Yes.
and I, who have experienced this healing, we know, but we can't wait for every person to experience to be accepted. So we need evidence, scientific evidence, and I'm hoping to make as much as possible in this lifetime for me to make this evidence possible. and that's what I do, and that's it.
Excellent. Yes. Actually, in the previous days in my class, the professor just was saying that today we, as a researchers, we just the main purpose is not just publish article or publish papers. The main purpose today is to let the people know, to be able to share the real information, the information that you find. So I think that the work that you do is awesome because you do exactly this. Is not just the in focus on publish, focus on write papers.
Yes,
So thank you for all the work that you do.
thank you. I'm just doing what professor directs. It's not.
Great, thank you. So before I start, I would like to ask to the people if they can write on the comments if everything sounds perfect. And the comments, there are many comments of love to you. Alexandra Luis, Nicole C, Niha Bawan, Abi Sutrave. It's very difficult for me to say the Indian names, but I try to do it. Habin Sayed, hello Sima Madam, hello Fer, hello Javin. So we can start with the questions if you agree. Okay. So please share with us, why did you choose in the very beginning the BHMS as your path? For all those who are not from India, BHMS is the Bachelor of Homeopathic Medicine and Surgery, is the degree that you get. So tell us, why did you choose this path from the very beginning?
Yes, it's very interesting because when I chose, I did not know where it will take me. Okay. But what had happened was I was sure I wanted to be a doctor, and I was a good student, and there were chances that I would be a doctor easily. But when I was choosing, so after after our 12th, we go into university for medical school. At that time in India, we have to choose which stream of medicine we want to study, which is the conventional or the complementary. So
Mhm.
what happened with me was my mother was taking homeopathy with for her issues, and I had seen that she had gone to conventional treatment all over the place, which did not help her at all. Like she had multiple issues, not just one. Like, I think at least three issues she had. But with homeopathy, even though the practitioner who treated her was at that time, it was not a full-fledged degree right in the beginning. When we started, it was already a full-fledged degree. But
Mhm.
this person was an old person. He had studied by himself, and
Mhm.
he was giving medication, and she was helped to a great degree with that medicine. And to me it was a problem because if I chose to do conventional but I took homeopathy for myself and my family, this double standard was not okay.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
said, no, I'll just study homeopathy. And
Mm.
when I looked into it, I was thrilled because the subjects were medical subjects plus homeopathy. So it was even more difficult than the regular MBBS as I saw it. So it was even more challenging. So
Yes.
that's how I came into homeopathy, and I have not regretted since.
Yes, I know that. Okay. So when you were deciding this decision, did you how can I say, did you started like in from the beginning to have some doubts about your decision, or how was this like
That's a good question because um, when I was in final year, that is the last year before we start internship, the
Mhm.
final year exams, at that time I suddenly realized that there is because everybody was questioning homeopathy, and they were like, it's not it was the time when a very big investigation was going on, and then the Lancet article came after some time. But it was a very turbulent time for homeopathy, when people were questioning. And I came in with so much conviction,
Mhm.
but I could not answer them when they asked scientific questions, because we were sent to conventional hospitals for our postings, for all the
Mhm.
subjects of medical subjects. And when there the professors asked questions, I had no answer. And I did not have any evidence to put in front of them. And he started doubting whether, how do I go about this? How do I even stand? What grounds do I have? This happened to me in final year. But thankfully, at
Mhm.
that time, my husband, Dr. Mahesh, at that time he was my senior, uh,
Mhm.
he was practicing according to Professor Vithoulkas' teachings already.
Okay.
Because all of us had actually gone to, Professor had come to Mumbai for
Uh-huh.
a
Wow.
seminar. There were, I think, 3,000 people in that seminar.
Oh.
We all attended, but Mahesh started practicing. So, so I saw his practice. At that time, when I was filled with doubt, I
Mhm.
saw his practice, and I saw really bad cases like gangrene and things like, which you cannot deny the effect of the remedy.
Yes.
That kind of practice, purely following whatever professor taught in essence and what was available in the books at that time, he
Mhm.
was practicing just based on that, and there was that much success.
Yes.
So that kind of made me, stand back and say, okay, I am not in the wrong place. I
Yes.
I just need the guidance to, go ahead. And
Yeah.
then, of course, we got married, and then things happened in the right direction. So but,
Yeah.
that was a blessing for me. That it
Yes.
made me open my eyes to the right kind of teachings, and
Yes.
uh, I'm thankful for that.
Yes, yes. I think that what you are saying is so important because I remember that also when I was studying homeopathy in the university, I think that all of we as a young students, we go through these kind of things in our minds like, is this real? Is this not real? I am I in the right direction? What I am doing here? So I remember when I was studying this in the university, my first subjects. I remember that I also had like these questions about, okay, I have been treated all my life with homeopathy. I know that this work, but how can I tell the people that this work? How can I let them know what I know? Because sometimes we don't know what I know.
Correct.
Exactly. So I think that this is why research is so important because it can give us like this kind of basis because this also happens with me when I am trying to explain to the researchers, to the doctors, like when they ask me something about homeopathy, but how homeopathy works, for example. And when you start to explain them, they are like, but yes, this is not does not make sense for me.
Yeah.
Yes, and when you start to explain them with these published cases, with these base papers, they this start to make sense for them. So I think that this is so important from the very beginning when you start studying homeopathy, from the point when you are a young student, because this give you basis, this give you this combines you, is like a lot of conviction.
I,
So
I agree.
yes,
You're
yes.
right.
Congratulations for because you choose the right direction
Yeah.
and you are here now.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So go to the next question. It says, as a homeopath, which was your first research?
Um, First research was actually what I did for my MD, which I
Mhm.
don't have any. I mean, I have my thesis, but now I look back, it's not very well done. But that was my first one. What I wanted, my MD was in Organon,
Ah,
so I chose a very theoretical subject. I
okay.
wanted to show that suppression of superficial diseases leads to chronic, mm, deeper diseases, the direction of cure and things.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was a very extensive literature review, including conventional medicine literature, which shows that when you suppress, even at the population level, when you suppress superficial diseases,
Okay.
there is a tendency for deeper diseases to develop. But it was a very, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it as a research piece. It's very, very rudimentary in its form, but that's the first research I
That
did.
you,
But um, uh, that was during my MD.
okay.
But the first paper that I published,
Mm-hmm.
I think I have shared with you the paper, uh,
Yes.
is the paper on gangrene. As I
Mm-hmm.
said, we had a lot of. So this is the story of how I came into actual research, so to say. What happened was we were learning under professor, and Mahesh kept showing his cases and teaching his cases in the academy.
Mm-hmm.
Professor said at one point, he said, "You're showing all these cases. Why don't you write for publication?"
Mm-hmm.
And Mahesh knew I can write, so he brought back this idea and he said, "Professor says we should write these cases for publication."
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I had absolutely no idea what research writing or publication was or anything. This is 2016, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when professor said you should write for publication, this is research, writing. I
Mm-hmm.
wrote this first paper, learned everything by myself, and wrote this first paper. And thankfully, it was published in Indian Journal for Research in Homeopathy, where
Mm-hmm.
we showed how five cases of gangrene were prevented. The amputation was prevented in them just with homeopathy, no other associate therapy. And this was published. And what's good about this is it's one of the highest read and highest downloaded articles in the database of IJRH to
Wow.
date. So
Yes.
that's the first paper, the actual research paper that I wrote.
Yes. Yes. It is very interesting because when you see this kind of paper published, when you see these photos, is like very, it has this impact in you. And I think that if we as a young homeopaths could see this kind of published papers from the very beginning, from the first day that you are studying homeopathy, I think that this can give you a lot of conviction.
Conviction, yes.
Yes, because I remember that.
What can placebo do in gangrene? I mean,
Yes,
it's
exactly.
not placebo effect, obviously. So yeah,
Exactly. Because also this, even the subject of research methodology, that all of we receive in the when we are studying
yes,
university. I remember that this subject, it was like the most boring subject in the, like, it
right.
was like, okay, what is the next subject? And we were like, as research methodology, and all of we were like, oh no. Because we didn't have this kind of information at that time. We didn't have also like the right professor. I think if we have like a professor with like you,
Well,
I think that it will be great for all of us because we can get this passion and we can get this kind of interesting like happen with me. I was very blessed because I remember that I saw you in a conference that you gave, and you transmitted this for me. But I think that it is very important that if we, like for example me, if in the future give classes or give lectures, like transmit this to the young students about research, because it is very important, and it is very important to publish your cases, to know what you are doing.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay, so this was the first article that you published, right?
The gangrene one, the
The
previous
gangrene one, this
yeah,
one.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
And now we have a lot more cases, but I haven't gone back to doing it simply because I uh, I did not want to repeat the same methodology. I want to inculcate a new study design, so I'm waiting for a few things to come around. But we have many more cases of gangrene already.
Okay, yes, yes,
Yeah.
I can see that. Sahil Andrea Gonzalez Rubio, she says she's from Mexico. She's my friend, actually. She's also very young. She's studying homeopathy. She says everything sounds perfect. Academy Vithoulkas, Maria says hello, Seema. Hello, Maria. Nice to see you here. Dr. Obaid Hashmi also says hello. Okay, thank you, because I see that there is a lot of people from all over the world, from Afghanistan, India, of course, Mexico. So thank you very much for being here. The next question is about your professional life. And it says, at what moment of your professional life did you get in touch with the teachings of Professor Vithoulkas?
It's like I said, it was a blessing when Professor came to Mumbai in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was we were exposed to the possibilities of homeopathy at a very different level. We had not seen such cases. We had not even conceived that, we read Kent, we read all the heavy textbooks describing really serious diseases, but when you don't see them, you don't believe, you just, and when it's in textbook, it's for exams and you're studying, okay, but when you see a person show you that you can do this, that, and you have come to this profession to do that, so it kindles a sort of hope, a sort of passion, a sort of conviction,
Yes.
which are necessary. It's not optional. Your conviction, your that hope that you can do something, and the passion, these three things are necessary. They're not at all optional for people who want to make a difference in the world, for whichever field you take.
Yes.
So that happened with professors teaching in 2000
Mm-hmm.
at Mumbai. But what happened was, after coming back, sorry, there is fireworks going on.
Don't worry.
With cricket, we're very big with cricket. So,
Okay, don't worry.
so that's what happened with in 2000. But for me to really be involved with professors' teachings happened when I saw Mahesh uh, practicing based on that. So at that time, I really like it, my interest was spread till that time. I was reading Vithoulkas, I was reading other, teachers, but it was all mixed up. But
Mm-hmm.
when I saw Mahesh, in fact, this is something I used to ask him. I used to ask, why are you stuck with just one teacher?
Uh-huh.
There are so
Mhm.
many books. Why don't you study all of them? He said, if I finish studying Vithoulkas teachings, I will look at others. So I said, okay, I see that you're practicing wonderfully. So there must be something in this teacher's teachings.
Yes.
And so I also gave up everybody else and just stuck to Professor Vithoulkas from that point. It was looking at the practice of professors,
Mhm.
the cases that professor presented.
Mhm.
I remember it was, I think, an arsenicum case, and
Mhm.
it was also a gangrene case, and that is how Mahesh started, treating gangrene cases as well. But it
Uh-huh.
was professor's gangrene case which was unbelievable, and there was also, I think, a case of something to do with agenesis of the skull. Okay, it was amazing cases, unbelievable cases those were.
Mhm.
So that conference in Mumbai and then seeing Mahesh practice is what actually brought me to uh, professor's teachings, and I'm thankful.
And I am, this is one of the main things that I want, because I wanted to have
No.
you here, to have you here today, because this phrase that you say right now, that the conviction is not an option. The conviction when you are a homeopath is not an option. You cannot be like, I am a homeopath,
Mm.
and that's it. No,
Yeah.
because I remember that when I saw you in that conference that you gave, I remember that you said exactly these words, that the conviction is not an option when you are a homeopath. If you are not, you have no conviction, better go to other place. Better choose another path. And this remained in my mind so hard that I remember that this was, I was studying in the university at that time. And so I remember that I had some professors that they were like, okay, I am a medical doctor and also a homeopath, and you can treat just these things with homeopathy, and that's it.
That
Don't get like things in your mind.
fanatic.
Exactly. And this kind of professor, I remember that I said by that time, how can be this professor giving classes, to young students? how
Mm.
how can this happen?
That's
And
that's a tragedy. You can't blame the students if teachers are not giving it, right? If
yeah,
the students don't see, what
exactly.
will they do? They are helpless.
Exactly. So
Mm.
I was blessing also because I started to study in the learning program, and that is why it's so important that young students study the e-learning program,
Yes.
because this can give you a lot of conviction, and this can give you also the basic fundamentals of the homeopathy, the theoric fundamentals of the homeopathy. But
Yes.
this important thing about conviction, this very fundamental thing, that there it has a lot of your mind. As you say, there is a lot of difference between the homeopaths who study with conviction and all those who study like, just like, I am here now and see what happens.
Yeah, if it works, if it happens, that's not
Yeah,
how it.
exactly.
Especially because medicine per se is easy.
Yes,
Okay, medicine, practice of medicine is easy. You need a level of intelligence, and beyond that, there is not much. But with homeopathy, it's not just intelligence. You need a sort of insight,
yes.
wisdom, as we have seen with Professor, to
Hmm.
understand a human being in his entirety, which cannot be done by just applying intelligence.
Exactly.
You need dedication, you need compassion, and you should want to do something good for that human being.
Exactly.
Without this, which is what mostly not just skill of practice, but how
Mhm.
a homeopath should be, is what we learn from Professor, right? So when we see this as a package in one person, we find hope, we find conviction, and that gives us the strength to stand and say, yes, we can do something
Yes.
with this divine healing science.
Exactly. And this is also very important. Here in Mexico, when you finish the university, you have to do 1 year of practice and 1 year of free service. So you are in practice 2 years, like every day without receiving any money, just studying, just learning. And I started to do my practice, my free practice, my first year in the with a lot of medical doctors from my age, but they were just medical doctors. They were not homeopaths, because all of we used to give consultation about medical, family consultation, and homeopathic consultation. And I remember that the director of the center, when I started, the director, it was a medical doctor, and she used to put us all together in one group, and she used to give us some kind of preparation for the consultation and all these things. And she used to say, okay, you have 15 minutes with your patient. You cannot give them more. More than 15 minutes is not, it's not an option, you know? And when I started with my consultation, I started like 1 hour in the consultation, 2 hours with one person. And the other medical doctors that they were doing their service, I
Mm-hmm.
remember that they were like, "But why you are taking so much time? Why, why you are doing this?" I remember that there was a girl, one of my friends, who used to saw me like prepare my remedies for the persons, and she was like amazed, like, but I would like to know why you are doing that. You are so meticulous, and you are, and this she used to say also that homeopathy is very difficult, because they had their, the thing that you gave to the patient to go to the pharmacy to buy it.
Yes.
They used to feel,
Prescription. Mm-mm.
before the consultation,
Mm-hmm.
even without knowing the patient, with acetaminophen and this kind because they already know,
Oh,
they
yeah.
already knew.
Yeah. I mean, that's how that system works. And that's okay. But if you want to be a true homeopath, you need to look beyond that. You need to go beyond that.
Exactly.
That we have learned with Professor's teachings.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah, it's very important for all those who are watching us, for all those who have not done the e-learning program. It's really, really important. If you really have this conviction, if you really want to get involved in homeopathy in a serious way, do the e-learning program. I always say this to the people. There is no other option, do the e-learning program.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh,
You can actually, with e-learning, the thing is, it looks very tedious. It looks like, oh, so many hours. But the point is, with this kind of teaching that is designed, there is a standardization. Like everyone who goes through this
mhm,
achieves a certain standard to begin as a practitioner. And this is what we need in homeopathy, right? You can't have each person doing his own thing, calling it homeopathy. It's not scientific. When we
exactly.
say, because medical profession, you do it in India, you do it in the US, you do it in Mexico, there is a certain standard, and this is what you do. I mean, the nitty gritty and the business of it may be different, but the science is the same. But when it comes to homeopathy, no. Each person is taught a different thing. Each person, it works, they call it. I'll tell you about that as well. They call it as it works. And some people actually defend by saying, if the patient is fine, what should we worry about? The point is, you are limiting a very profound science to just, dealing with certain superficial things.
Yes,
And then you're expecting people to take you seriously? No, that's not going to happen. So to
exactly.
achieve this standardization, e-learning is the only way. Because not because we are part of ISEH, we
Mhm.
became part of ISEH because of how standardized and how high scientific system this was. We were not part of ISEH to begin with, correct?
Yes.
We
Yes.
chose to be in this organization because of how high the standards are and
Mhm.
how beautifully well constructed the program is. So that is why, if you're committed and if you're passionate and if you follow a standardized method, only then you see something, coming up, blooming, beautiful out of homeopathy. Otherwise, let's not talk about that.
Yes, yes, I totally agree. And okay, I am going to read some comments right now. And I am going to translate this comment from Giovanelli Rodriguez from Mexico also. She says, "Thank you very much, Dr. Sima, for publish your work that really helped us to give a real formality and credibility to all the homeopathic medicine." Okay, and Likita Sidalingapa, she says, "Hello, Sima Madam. These research papers are reference for young and new practitioners like us to show common and scientific approach of homeopathy. Thank you for making it too easy for us." Okay, so thank you for all your comments. We are going to continue with these questions, these interesting questions. And the next questions is about your research training. And it says, what were the reasons that led you to realize that you needed research training?
Yeah. So, like I showed you the first paper that I wrote, at that point, I was self learning. I was, every day I was spending hours and hours trying to figure out the right way to do things and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I realized that though pretty, I mean, I got ahead quite a lot. I published quite a few papers. When I say I, it is a research team. It's never me alone because cases are not just mine. Cases are from people of 95 countries now already, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everybody sends in cases, and I'm the one who directs the design and how it should be done. That's all. But sorry, I have a little cough, so I might be.
Okay.
But at that point, I realized that whatever said and done, academic training has its own place. And it's a different world when you see the inside of academic research training
Mm-hmm.
than outside. So there's a lot of advantage to be had when you have proper structured training for this. Like, for example, research methodology.
Mm-hmm.
When I learn, ad hoc, like as I go on, I was learning. And I realized that at some point I have to understand statistics and biomedical research design, the small details which is difficult to grasp just by learning by oneself.
Mm-hmm.
So institutional training, I felt was very essential. I was already nearing 40 at that time, but
Mm-hmm.
I decided that it is time to make sure I know this in a proper way, and so I went to do my master's in medical science in Taylor's University. I
Okay.
already had an MD, which is
Mm-hmm.
a higher degree, but still I needed, and this was a research based degree, postgraduate degree. So
Mm-hmm.
it involved a lot of learning, research methodology learning,
Mm-hmm.
statistics, methodologies, and I even learned qualitative, quantitative in quite a lot of detail.
Mm-hmm.
My professors there in Malaysia, Taylor's University, they were excellent and they were very, very strict professors.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it got very difficult, but I suppose I'm thankful for that because they did not take any substandard, submissions. So that actually trained me much more. It's a very different world when you learn it from inside. So I would recommend anyone who wants to really go into research, not the clinicians. Clinicians,
Mhm.
I will tell you their role as well. But if you want to take up research seriously,
Mhm.
then some level of training is essential. You can really really benefit, and that is when. So that was like in 2019. I
Mhm.
went to masters that late, but it really helped definitely.
Yes. Yes. And you also started to study your PhD after.
Um, I was at one point. I was selected. I was supposed to start in the Royal College in Ireland,
Oh.
but what happened is, I mean, the supervisor had accepted, and I'd even started the groundwork. But the academic committee that accepts PhD applications, the final round, they said we are not comfortable. I mean, not, they did not express this, but it
Mhm.
was made to, it was almost like an undercurrent that came through that with a homeopathic background, we're not comfortable with it. So
Mhm.
I was a little taken aback, but these are things that I'm used to these days. The rejections in papers, for example, even before sending it for a peer review, just because it's a homeopathic paper, they will refuse. The editor will refuse.
Yes.
It's actually a publication bias, which shouldn't be there, but it's there. So by now, I'm used to it. And professor said that you're already well trained. Why would you, you know, waste few more years just to for the sake of the PhD, which made sense to me. And I decided that it's time to make our own research organization.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
that's no.
Great, great. That is really, really great. Okay. And how, please share with us, how were you selected to be the head of the research team of the IACH? This is very interesting for me.
That is the magnanimity and generosity of Professor Vithoulkas. Actually, I had no idea that all this was happening. What happened was in 2017 that gangrene paper was published. After that, within a span of 2 years, I think we published around 6 papers. And at the same time, I started realizing that I would benefit a lot more for homeopathy if we took our studies to conferences, medical conferences. So, starting with autoimmunity, where are we now? In New York, then in Fiji, then in Ireland, Dublin, which is a very important conference. All these are conventional medical conferences,
Mhm.
not homeopathic conferences. Most of them were immunological conferences. So started, making the posters, presenting them, oral presentations, papers, all that. And I had no clue that professor is going to make me a research head and all that. I was just enjoying this so much and I was so happy doing this. I just kept doing. And then after the Harvard conference, where our paper became selected as the best poster,
Uh-huh.
uh, after that, there was a session in Elonisos. We came directly to that. And during the session, the class in Elonisos, professor said, okay, now Seema will show the poster that won the award of excellence. And she's the director of research of ISEH. And I was like,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was just, so that's something about professor I have to tell you.
Mhm.
he is he's not inhibited by anything. If you are working for homeopathy, he will support you to no end. He
Yeah.
will put you up there and he will focus for you. He will encourage you, like I have to say, he is like my dad.
Mm.
Okay, he's like my father. That much encouragement he has given me. Because even for Mahesh was a newcomer there. He was the first time visiting Elonis house in 2006.
Mhm.
How he got, you should do an interview of him, how he got to go there. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah. That will be great.
The once he went, when professor saw his cases, he said, you will show the cases, teach the cases from tomorrow. He did not worry this is a newcomer, whether he is proper, he is not proper, nothing. If
Mhm.
you've done work, he will encourage you. That's the generosity of professor. And I
Yes.
don't think there's anybody else in that, because people are usually about, are they good to me, are they not good to me? There are lots of such things which play on people's minds, and the
Yes.
organization is his, right? It's his decision. But
Exactly.
when he sees people working, he will encourage. So without even me dreaming of wanting to, I've never even thought about it. He just suddenly said she's the director of research. And, and I was like, okay, thank you.
Okay. Wow, that's wonderful, and I am pretty sure that all that you are saying is the same way of thinking for a lot of people. This generosity of the professor, and
Yes.
also the generosity of dear Maria, because I think that when you work in this way, for example, the work in the from the professor, when you work in this way every day, and you help people, and you have this compassion, and you have your students, I think that this becomes like the regular way of living for you, like for there is no other way of living. And I think that this applies for professor and also for dear Maria, because both of them, I think that they're very wonderful human beings and
Yes.
very wonderful souls, and I
Yes.
am also very thankful with both of them.
Yes, and if you think of how much, Professor, of course, is a homeopath and he has a vision and his dream was there. But how much Maria gave up, I mean, she's completely committed to a cause which she was not related to begin with, right?
Yes,
So seeing how much it's helping humanity has
exactly.
brought her into this mission. So this is an organization of such minded people. They all they want is to bring this science which can really change the whole world's paradigm, to really be accepted, to be scientific, to be established. And this is the only cause that has brought such beautiful minds together, and I'm so blessed to be part of it, really.
Yes, yes, me too. I have not know them in person, because I have never gone to Alonisos. I really hope that next year I
But
can.
you are doing so much work, you are a part of family too.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really do this work like with so much love and so much passion. But I always say that it's not just for me. It's because of you, because you have transmitted this for me. I was just like a student, regular student that was in their home student that had their doubts in his mind, in her mind.
Yes.
And this is not for me, this is not just for me. I always say that I was just blessed because I had this great opportunity of meet such wonderful people like Juan Garcia, like dear Maria, like professor, like you, like Latika. And I think that what you are doing has so much transcendence that maybe we cannot imagine. Maybe there is a lot of people in their home like me that they were studying, and they started to involve because of all the work that you have done. So thank you.
Well, we
Thank
we do work, yes, but it's like professor is the sun and we are the relay stations.
you. Yeah.
We're just reflecting his light, that's all.
Yes, exactly, exactly. All of you are wonderful, really, really
Thank
wonderful.
you. Thank you.
Okay, so the next question is, this is also a very interesting question for me because I have been challenged a lot of things now that I started in this file. And it says, what were your biggest challenges or limitations when entering the file of research as a homeopath?
this is an ongoing battle, actually. It's not done, it's not over. The biggest challenge I have is not to do with our research possibilities or anything like that, but main challenges are two.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, the biggest challenge is to even get the conventional editors to even look at your papers,
Yes.
right? Once they look, so the typical, sorry, the
Mm-hmm.
typical rejection letter goes like this: we cannot accept your paper at this moment, either because priority is not high, or we do not they actually say we do not accept papers because yours is a homeopathic paper. This is, and they will say this does not reflect on the quality of your uh, study. So we are not even considering the quality of your study, we just reject because it's homeopathic. So we are still in that state where conventional editors will refuse to look at our studies, even the quality of our studies. If you have a comment about the quality, I
Mm-hmm.
welcome it, because I want to improve. I want to make sure it's on par with the best studies out there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not even ready to look at what we're doing, what can we do? Right? So
Yes.
this is one of
Yes.
the biggest challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Second challenge we have is the so homeopathy is an individualistic therapeutic system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Individualization is our tenet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you bring the but for conventional medicine, generalization is the tenet.
Mm-hmm.
So when you bring the idea of generalization to a science which is individualistic, there's a lot of adjustment that has to be done for adapting this to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like putting a round peg in a square hole.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going the beauty of the science is lost.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to make it what it is not. Okay, and because that is the accepted standard, like for example, you want to conduct an RCT or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
not going to happen. So this kind of trying to adapt homeopathic concepts to the standards of conventional research, medical research, this is the problem. Of course, today there's a very big debate about whether RCTs are a gold standard or not, and all these, which is good. And
Yes.
there's also the qualitative research field, which is a very wide field open for homeopathy. We
Mm-hmm.
have to, I personally believe we must explore qualitative research much more than what we have done already.
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways to minimize the challenges, or face these challenges and come up with quality research evidence, even with these challenges, I believe. But these are the main biggest challenges for us with homeopathic research.
Thank you. And I will add also one more that I remember that when we got in touch the first time, I remember that you told me that it was very difficult when you start to look for your advisor, for example, when you start in this research field, because most of the advisors do not know anything about homeopathy.
Yes.
And I remember that you told me this, that I had to look for an advisor that had like an open mind, because it was going to be very difficult to know someone that helped you with homeopathy. And
Yes.
I remember that when I started to look for my advisor, everybody was like, this is my research. You have to choose a research that is already in there, like running. And I remember that for me it was like, but what I am going to do if nobody here is homeopath, if I am the first homeopath that is center is starting in this university in the research, what I am going to do. And it was very difficult because it's like if you are alone in that way, like nobody know about homeopathy. Everybody is like medical doctor, and they have their advisors that are medical doctor, biologists, and they had their
Yes.
you know, physicians, chemisticians, all these things. And it's very difficult because you have to be very focused on your way, very focused on what you want, because nobody will know about homeopathy. And you told me exactly this, that you have to avoid talk about homeopathy, but with the basics of homeopathy. And I started with this. and, and this is something difficult if you don't have your basics very based, you know, in your mind. This is
Yeah.
very difficult. So this, I will add also this
Yes.
other
That's
challenge.
what that is what I did with my masters as well. So
Mm-hmm,
I could not go to a conventional medical university and I expect them to accept a research proposal with homeopathic idea.
mm-hmm,
So what I did was I took the concepts and I investigated based on the concepts rather than call it a homeopathic study,
mm-hmm,
because a lot of our concepts are most of our concepts are general health and disease concepts. They're not specific to homeopathy. So you can still fortify the idea, bring your evidence for homeopathy by just using those concepts and researching based on them. So for example, my master's research was on the treatment of fever with antipyretics in elderly during infections.
mm-hmm,
So we did a systematic review and meta-analysis, and this brings evidence for homeopathy. What we have, I did not expect such a big support to what professor has taught with levels of health. But when I did it with no bias, because when you research, you go in without a bias.
mm-hmm,
When I conducted the research without any bias, I still found evidence very strongly backing what professor teaches. That during infections, during sepsis, if the elderly do, get fever and you suppress,
mm-hmm,
you're going to end up with, the actually in sepsis, it can lead to death. That's what the evidence says.
mm-hmm,
But there is a class of elderly people who cannot raise fever at all.
mm-hmm,
And in them, it's okay because they're already, according to levels of health, they're already in low level. They're not able to raise a fever, and in them, fever is dangerous. You have to suppress.
mm-hmm,
I actually saw in the papers out there, conventional papers out there, evidence to our concepts. And I didn't have to bring in the idea that it's a homeopathic study.
mm-hmm. Okay, and could you share with us some cases published in peer-reviewed medical journals? I am going to
Sure, yeah, the next.
share.
Yeah, so these are some interesting papers. For example, this was about homeopathic treatment of vitiligo. We presented only 14 cases, although even when we published this, we already had I think, over 10 to 12,000 cases of vitiligo. Why I'm highlighting on the number is because how difficult it is to find bankable or evidence enough to present.
Mm-hmm,
Like you can't just put pictures of before after, like an advertisement or something.
mm-hmm,
That's not acceptable for a peer review scientific paper. You need to present certain parameters which are acceptable as actual remedial effect, right?
mm-hmm,
So such deep evidence, strong evidence, even though we had so many thousands of papers, only 14 cases we could present. So you have to be very meticulous in your data collection if you are, if you intend to publish.
mm-hmm,
So this was an interesting paper. And then similarly, there is a paper on cardiac cases where we presented with the cardiac changes after remedies. Uh,
okay.
yeah, this paper.
Mm-hmm,
Uh, so with the SPECT, that is the cardiac investigation, it shows over time that there is compensation, there is improvement, not what happens without homeopathic therapy, but much better. In fact, the cardiologist gives an opinion there saying this shows a betterment at the mitochondrial level, that the energy in the cardiomyocytes are getting better.
Mhm.
So we need this level of evidence. Okay, so that was an interesting paper. Next
Mhm.
one is, this is an interesting one. I've put only one picture of the other pictures, but
Mhm.
here we showed that if you see this graph here, we showed that acute atopic dermatitis, that is eczema,
Mhm.
right? When a lot of us homeopaths treat a lot of eczema cases successfully, yes.
Mhm.
But why this paper is special is because in each case, we showed that when the patient became better with the score ad, which is a scoring of the dermatitis,
Mhm.
you have a way to score, and if it gets better, it is if the number goes down, it means the
Mhm.
dermatitis is clearing. So as it touches zero, the next event that happens in these patients is the development of an acute infection with fever,
Mhm.
which was absent for a very long time when
Mhm.
dermatitis was active in them. This we showed on graph. We showed with cases. This is actually a case control study,
Uh-huh.
because we also took control cases where they did not get better with homeopathy. There were cases that improved with homeopathy, and there
Mhm.
were cases which were still on treatment, not completely better.
Mhm.
Even in these patients, when the dermatitis became better, it was associated around that time with the development of an acute infection with fever. So this is the special attribute of this paper, that it was we could see graphically that chronic inflammatory disease gets better, means there is a possibility for the acute inflammatory condition to come in. So this mutual exclusiveness, which we learn in levels of health, in
Mhm.
these were actually seen in clinical cases, which is special about this paper. There are, of course, many other papers that we have published. I think my
Wow.
papers come around to 20 by now.
Mhm.
It's very big, but that's where we stand.
No, it's great.
There is a paper on, sorry, if you can go back.
Uh-huh.
There's a paper on kidney failure, okay, because of a specific pathology, where
Mhm.
dialysis was stopped and the patient recovered with reappearance of skin condition.
Mhm.
We have dengue paper, where we have provided 10 case studies with dramatic increase in the platelets shown in 12 hours with homeopathic therapy.
Wow.
Then there is a theoretical paper about past medical history. Then there is obesity, dysfunctional uterine bleeding, and also, okay, I think I've put it twice. Just okay. The
Mhm.
next is a very interesting paper.
Mhm.
If you see how severe the psoriasis, this is called erythroderma, because it got infected and it became septic. The patient became septic, and still with treatment, this was the effect. But why this paper? We have millions of psoriasis patients under homeopathy. I'm sure, at least in India, it's very popular for psoriasis patients to take homeopathy. Now, the specialty about this paper was that we showed that though it's the same diagnosis, psoriasis, just one diagnosis, but the phenotypes, that means each person's presentation of the same diagnosis is different, and the response to treatment is also different. For example, this case is a very simple case, the one on the left.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and that person cleared up in 3 months and has stayed without any eruptions for many, many years now. Whereas the other case, on the severe case, though it cleared up, it helped, homeopathy helped. But even 5 years into treatment, it is still, it's still active. The psoriasis is not gone. So we showed that there is a spectrum of presentation, and diagnosis alone is not enough. Whereas if we can if we can bring in the idea of levels of health,
Mhm.
prognosis, giving a prognosis is much more scientific rather than just statistics or maybe, maybe not sort of a situation.
Mhm.
Levels of health is a very valuable, practical clinical tool which can help us give prognosis in a very specific way, is what we showed with this paper.
Mhm.
Then I think
The next one. Mhm. This one is very interesting. Mhm.
one of my favorite articles because I love the fact that this girl was born with cancer but is still happy and living very well. She's a beautiful girl of 15 now, I think, and she's very well even now. This paper was important. See, we cannot cure cancer. We should never say we can cure cancer.
Yes.
Some cancers can respond to homeopathy, and that again depends on level of health. It's such a valuable tool, I cannot emphasize enough. In this case, this girl was born with cancer,
Mhm.
but she also had recurrent tonsillitis. So automatically we know that she's of a better health level, right?
Mhm.
Born with cancer. And as levels of health teaches us, the same thing happened here, that with treatment, she brought out such severe skin eruptions, as you can see here. And when once this was treated, she became this beautiful and she's very well. And we have monitored her for any relapse of the cancer for over 10 years, and she's stayed clear of it so far. So this is one of my favorite papers. And yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, this is
You.
another paper that I'm very fond of because it was one of the easiest papers to publish. It is
Mhm.
a case of Dr. Elena Rudakova,
Mhm.
who treated a case of syringomyelia, which is formation of a cystic cavity in the spinal
Mhm.
cord. You can see here
Mhm.
in the 2008 film, you can see that there is a cystic cavity in the spine which had been progressing through MRI reports. We showed that it progressed till 2008. And from 2008, when the homeopathic treatment was started, you can see the resolution beautifully on the MRI. And this does not happen with conventional therapy. Once you have cystic cavities in the spine, you should for life take management treatment like painkillers and things like that. So this, when we showed on MRI that it resolved, the cystic cavity resolved, was very easily accepted in the annals of neurosciences. So it's one of my favorite.
Your favorites. Yeah, it's great. Of course, I have read all of these papers, and really, if you have the opportunity, for all those who are watching us, if you have the opportunity to read them, to check every point of them, it is really interesting, and it is very impact in your study. Okay, and these are also the
These are posters, yes.
mhm,
This is just a collage of all, not all, most of the posters that we have presented at conventional medical conferences.
mhm,
And the interesting experience for me when I go to these conferences, and because you're interacting with conventional scientists,
mhm,
immunologists, medical doctors, surgeons, and even clinicians. So when the first few conferences, it was very interesting to me
mhm,
because when I give the idea, the bigger picture, for example, the continuum theory, when I said it's about the bigger picture and not just some one factor, one gene, or something like that, that there is something even before that that changes the immune system as a whole, they accept it. They have absolutely no resistance to this because these are scientists. These are not
mhm.
practitioners who are dealing with just drugs, right?
Yes, exactly.
These are people who are investigating
Mhm,
and they have absolutely no resistance. They say, yes, you actually make sense. And In fact, a Stanford scientist once, geneticist, told me that, oh, this answers so many of my questions.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
want to collaborate? No, 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 no.
Yes, all your posters are great. I think that when you publish posters, because this is something that I am learning in the masters,
Mm.
because the professor, the class about scientific communication, he he told us in this week that the way of communicate science is very difficult,
Yes,
and you have to be very clear, because he said, how could you explain your research to a little boy of 8 years old? How
yes,
can you explain that? He said that is an art, because it's very difficult. You have to understand it very, very well, and to make it clear to the people. And
yes.
the posters are a very clear way to explain.
Powerful. Yes,
Mhm.
yes,
Very powerful thing.
yes. Yeah, I'm sure you have something called 3 minute theses. Do you have that?
The 3 minutes, what?
So some universities, they ask you to present your theses in three.
Uh, 3 minutes.
It was there for us. So that
Wow.
helps you to develop. You have to tell your whole research in 3 minutes
3 minutes.
in a way that common people can understand, not super specialists.
Yes. No. uh,
You the training for how to communicate even to common people your
yes.
what your ideas are.
Yes. No, we had 15 minutes every semester. You have to explain. You just have 15 minutes. You can use your presentation, but you have 15 minutes.
Mm.
And well, I think I thought that it was very little time. I cannot imagine how to explain in 3 minutes.
Yes, one slide, 3 minutes. You should. I mean, and you have. It's like a competition. The
Wow.
best person wins, and it's fun, but it also trains you to communicate better.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes, and this Harvard Medical School conference poster, that it has been one of the
Most
most.
famous ones.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Also, I am going to share the links of all these posters in the comments, so the people can see all these,
in
and
detail.
can
Yes,
study them.
yes.
Okay, so three more questions, and also Almantina, Paredes, and Pachari, they are sending you greetings. Pachari says, "Hello, Dr. Sima, very inspiring session." And Christina Georgesco, hello, Christina. She says, "Late greetings, dear Sima and Fer. Just cannot help to listen what you are saying in order to write my hellos. Very happy to hear and see you. Thank you very much, dear Christina." Okay. So you have been in a lot of medical congresses. I am going to quit. You have been in a lot of medical congresses. Please tell us, how has been your experience of participating in international congresses, and which one was the most successful and historic for you?
Yes. My experience with conferences is it has enriched me so much, because you see, when we are among homeopaths, we have a certain mentality, certain, our perspective is in a certain way, and we are among people who generally understand us, right? But
Yes.
when you go out there to immunology conferences and clinicians, general clinicians, or some specialties like dermatology conferences, you are with people whose perspective is very different,
Mhm.
whose thinking, whose angle of approaching the problem is very, very different.
Mhm.
Okay, so we know we are talking about health and disease and cure and all that, but they come from a very different perspective. And
Mhm.
to be to get those ideas in a way that can enrich your own,
Mhm.
and to make them think about our concepts, I
Mhm.
wouldn't say our because it's general health concepts.
Mhm.
But these things they have not thought of. Okay. For example, when I tell them that recently in Paris, just the last week that I was there, it was
Yes.
a workshop on levels of health.
Uh-huh.
And one of the psychiatrists just sat there and she was like, oh my God, I never thought of these things.
Like the like, the like in the.
and and these people are scientific investigators, so they can't help it when when they really get good information, it shows on their face. But
Yes.
at the same time, the questions they ask
Uh-huh.
are so important to refine our approach. For example, the first conference I went to was in Fiji, in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Second one which I went to was in Fiji. In
Mm-hmm.
Fiji, I was presenting the continuum poster,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the doctors told me that um, this idea is absolutely groundbreaking, but there is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and that is that it's very wide. Your approach is too wide. You need to narrow it down.
Mm-hmm.
Then, when she said that, it struck me, and then I started changing my approach. That is when I started focusing on specific disease
Mm,
diagnosis rather
okay.
than general, chronic, acute.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot be that way. So, because I'm a self-taught researcher till very recent times,
Mm-hmm.
these questions were very important for me to focus and to model my thought according to in a way that can be acceptable, in a way that can be understood by the conventional people. But at the same time, though it was a personal experience in that sense,
Mm-hmm.
what I was giving there was much bigger than
Mm-hmm.
what they had ever thought of.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it was very encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
At no point have I felt embarrassed or lacking because I was coming from a homeopathic background.
Mm-hmm.
Were conventional medical, very cut and dry, intense, procedure oriented, methodology oriented people,
Yes.
positive thinking, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But at no point, even though I was dealing with these people, did I feel that something is lacking in us, because simply because these concepts are so true. There is no doubt in their truth, in the application of their truth, right? So at no point did I feel, and I'm very proud of that fact, that we
Mm-hmm.
are the science that is very, very true. There is no doubt about it. uh,
Yes.
Most successful, that's difficult to pick. Of course, we won the, in Harvard Medical School, we won the best poster. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely one of the most successful moments.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think a lot of other tiny moments are important. For example, in Istanbul, there was a huge reception,
Mm-hmm.
uh, as in there was a huge audience for the presentation that we made, and
Mm-hmm.
professor spoke there online as well. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's one of, and it was conducted by WHO and the Ministry of Health of Turkey, which is giving us a lot of, and we were one of the most, people. We were one of the presenters who had the most people there.
Uh-huh.
So there are such small wins which are important,
Mm-hmm.
and um, I think all of them have been very important in different ways. But if you want me to pick one successful one, I would say the Harvard one was,
Mm, okay.
because in such a, the capital of conventional medicine,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it was not a complimentary conference. It was about neurosciences. Uh,
Wow.
so we presented a paper on multiple sclerosis, which got that poster got the, and they accepted the idea that we were showing, the antibiotics were a very big cause for multiple sclerosis, and they accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah, that was, yeah, very.
Very successful. Yeah. Yeah. And why in homeopathy we cannot make a double blind trial? What is the difference with conventional medicine?
So typically, what we do with placebo controlled, randomized controlled double blind trials is that you put one drug for one disease. Say we're talking about psoriasis.
Mm-hmm.
You give one group of people with
Mm-hmm.
psoriasis one drug,
Mm-hmm.
and the other group placebo.
Mm-hmm.
And then at a certain period, say after 3 months, you're going to check their skin clearance, how much of the drug, how much has cleared from the placebo, and then you compare if it makes a huge difference or not. Now this is okay, and it's the way to investigate conventional drugs. But what happens when you come to homeopathy is that just a minute.
Mm-hmm. Just don't worry.
Uh, so what happens when we come to homeopathy is that first of all, we don't give one medicine for one pathology, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have in one group, if you have 100 psoriasis patients, you may be giving 100 remedies.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas on the other side, you're giving placebo. How are you going to compare, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Now, some people they have adapted this idea.
Mm-hmm.
They have made individualized homeopathic treatment in one group
Mm-hmm.
and placebo in the other group.
Mm-hmm.
This is possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the problem is a technical one that because you're doing blinded, double blinded study,
Uh-huh.
the homeopath will always realize which is the remedial and which is the placebo effect. This
Yes.
is a
Yes.
problem
Yes. 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 Yes.
because you have it's mathematical. The response is mathematical.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you either know that this is a placebo effect, or there is the remedial action is not okay and you change. So really technically it's a very difficult thing to perform. We have nothing against RCTs. It's just that technically to adapt homeopathy to RCT is challenging. I don't know how to overcome a lot of other things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, just a moment.
See.
For example, a lot of our this is a problem that some researchers are actually addressing. There are certain papers addressing this
Mm-hmm.
process of talking to the patient. You know how detailedly we talk to a patient and how much into depth we go. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of researchers claim that this process itself is therapeutic.
Mm-hmm.
How do you divide the effect of the the therapy like psychotherapy like effect and the
Mm-hmm.
remedy effect?
Mm-hmm.
So dealing with gross pathologies like gangrene, it's simple, it's easy, it's not difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But say you're dealing with some mental emotional pathologies,
Mm-hmm.
schizophrenia, depression, especially depression, anxiety, and such things.
Mm-hmm.
How do you differentiate the effect of talking to the patient and the
Mm-hmm.
remedy effect? So there are such small, intricate issues with double-blind RCTs, which are really a big problem for homeopathy.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said before, they're already questioning, even in conventional medicine, they're already questioning how valid RCTs are to real life, practice. For example, because when you conduct an RCT, you are conducting it under very specific conditions,
Uh-huh.
okay, in specific type of patients in a specific controlled manner.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, patients are not in that specific, frame.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a lot of other things which may change the way
Yes.
the
The.
treatment will cause,
Mm-hmm.
treatment will have an effect or not.
Mm-hmm.
Even in conventional treatment, they are questioning uh,
Mm-hmm.
the, the superiority of RCTs,
Mm-hmm.
and many of them are for observational studies. And
Mm-hmm.
observational studies, according to me, are the way to go for homeopathy.
Okay, in homeopathy. Okay, that's super interesting because for all those who want to go into research, go to into this kind of research.
Yes.
And we go to our last question, and Also here I am going to ask to the people that is watching us if they want to write their questions. Also, this is the moment to write their questions. So the next question is, who can be involved in the research work of IACH?
Um, the only mandatory thing that we have is that you be a diploma holder of the e-learning program.
Mhm,
This is not because we want to push e-learning out there, but because, like I said before, we need a certain minimum standardization
mhm,
before we can accept you as a a clinician of quality, because we need a certain gauge by which because we need a uniformity when, because in a class in Elonisos, if you have seen before, uh, if you give a case, this happened when external people who are visiting Elonisos just because they want to see professor, and they're not diploma holders, but the
mhm.
class is full of diploma holders, and these people from outside present a case and they say, can you guess the remedy? 95% of the class will tell the same remedy,
Wow.
and it will be the remedy, of course.
Yeah.
So um, not the cases that professor sees, because
Mhm.
cases professor sees, we have paid, we have brought there.
Yes.
It's not easy to guess those cases.
Uh-huh.
But generally, if a fresh case is brought to the class,
Mhm,
there is a certain standard uniformity in the way people think, in the
mhm,
way they perceive things, and how they apply the principles of practice.
mhm.
So, because of this, we need this basic qualification that you be a diploma holder of the academy. But
Okay.
beyond that, there is nothing else. You
Mhm.
need to give me a case that I can say this is believable, and
Okay.
then I will process it and send it to professor, and
Mhm.
then professor will again examine whether this is a case that is of quality, and we will publish. So other than the fact that they should be diploma holders, there is no other requirement for being involved in research work. You
Okay.
don't, you don't need special training
Okay.
for research or anything like that.
Mhm. Okay. So here we have the comments of Juan Garcia. He says, keep up the good work, dear colleagues. Natalia Orsino, this session is so inspiring for all of us who intend to follow this path of research in homeopathy. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Pachari, hello Maria. It would be great to interview Dr. Mahesh. How was her first trip to Alonisos? Yes, this will be great.
It's a
So,
interesting story. Trust me, you should hear it from him.
if Dr. Mahesh is over there, you are going to be here soon
Yeah, maybe bring him in another session.
in another session. Yes. And also another Seema, she says, hello Maria, wonderful session. It's great to hear Dr. Seema Mahesh. Thank you. I think that this session was very interesting, not just for me, because I was very interested in this session, because know from someone who have already like walked the path is very interesting and very important for all of us that are starting with this path in research, because I am realizing that it's not easy. It's very difficult. Is I think that is more difficult even that the homeopathy, that study homeopathy, because you have to be like you very convinced, very like very meticulous, very, you have to have a lot of qualifications, and you have them, and congratulations for that.
But I
Okay.
want to add one thing.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I think in in Event India, where we had 1,000, more than 1,000 people participating for Vithoulkas seminar.
Mm-hmm.
This was in Bangalore. We conducted.
Mhm.
Uh, Somebody asked me, how can we become like you
Mhm.
know, in research? How can we achieve that much in research? I said, and this is not, it's not a philosophy or it's some, you know, something that is abstract. It is practical. That forget that you are doing it. Just
Yes.
do because the job needs to be done and
Yes.
do it well. And that's
Yes.
the only way you can get anywhere in any field. The moment you think I am doing it, a lot
Yes.
of other things come in which will stop your growth. If
Exactly.
you, and this I've seen in professor and really achieved people in many fields, that these people are not attached to their work. They do it and they forget that they have done that.
Yes.
So that's
Exactly.
the only way to be really effective and to really grow and evolve, not just grow, evolve
Mhm.
as any professional. That's the only thing I want to say.
Alright, thank you. Thank you very much, Seema. And thank you for taking the time to share your experiences with us. Thank you for being an inspiration to all of us and for more homeopaths to prepare in the file of research. My most sincere thanks for being an important part in the search and better understanding of classical homeopathy through the wonderful work you are doing through research. And thank you also for encouraging us to seek this excellence in homeopathy. Thank you. Really, 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 I'm really happy for this interview.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope this particular channel grows much more because I know a lot of talks come in, you know, regional languages, and the reach for homeopathy towards the population should increase a lot more. And I wish the channel all the best, and thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to share.
Thank you. Thanks to you. So, thank you to all of you that have joined us today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for share the content. Thank you for your comments, and see you in the next live session. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.